Welcome back to Passing Time with Craig. As always, I'm your host, Craig, and today I got to chat with Brandon Christensen, who is the writer, co-writer, and director of Bodycam, which is a new film having its Calgary premiere March 4th at Globe Cinema as part of Off the Cuff, the Calgary Underground Film Festival. I got to see it. It is creepy AF. He did such a good job with it. Basically, it's what it sounds like. It's two cops on duty. It's all shot through their body cams or cameras from the cars, films right here in Calgary. It was very terrifying. It's also going to be premiering on Shudder on Friday the 13th in March, which is going to be really exciting and creepy. So, you have a chance to check that out, but you can also go, like I said, March 4th, check it out at the Globe Cinema. We're going to chat about a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about scary movies, how we got into it, why audiences react so well and so much to them. And we're just going to have a great chat. And spoiler alert, Jurassic Park and Jurassic World get mentioned, but not by me. So that was great. So please enjoy my conversation with Brandon Christensen. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited to chat with you. I got to watch Bodycam. We're going to get to it. I first want to say, and I mean this nicest way possible, fuck you. There was moments into it, I was instantly like, oh no, it's so good. You did such a good job with it. But I really want to, before we get to that, I want to start with you. I'm looking at your IMDb. I'm going through your career. Your first short film, was that Flip in 2009? Is that the first thing you directed?
Yeah, that was like the first real thing I directed. It was for like a 48-hour film project. But yeah, I'd been making shorts when I was like a little kid, but they don't count.
Yeah. Well, so what was it as a kid that you were like film, directing, writing? What was that just drew you and you knew? I love that you were doing that as a kid. Like, what drew you to that?
I think it was just like my grandpa had a camera in like 1985, which was before most people had them. And so like I have home video footage of me as a baby because I was born in 85. And I think I was just always around a camera. And so when my parents got us our first camcorder in 93, it was just like, I've got 3 siblings and we would just constantly grab it. We were just that age where we had no responsibilities. We had nothing. So we would just film the stupidest skits that we could do. And just, I think we just really, before we had one, we would always borrow it and we would just watch the stuff of ourselves. And we became, I guess, probably obsessed with just seeing ourselves on the TV. It is just such a novel thing at the time. So I think that probably had a big inspiration for it. Just like constantly that feedback loop of filming something and watching it and just like doing it again and then doing it again. And just, whenever we could, it just was, you couldn't get the camera out of our hands,
Yeah, you just were drawn to it. And I love, like, I have several siblings and I remember just having like elaborate playtime with them and just coming up with these stories, and I would be like, oh, we should do this next and do that. Siblings are like your first cast and crew that I think people kind of forget about.
Yeah, totally. No, it was there's a lot of long short films like superhero movies and stuff that we would all just play different parts and do different things, and we didn't know what those parts were or what those positions were, but we just sort of collaborated and made these horrible short films. And I think I'm assuming that's why it just was the thing I wanted to do,
Yeah. And then when you decided to fully commit and go down this path, did you know this was right? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Like, I'm gonna be a writer director. I'm gonna do movies. I'm gonna make this shit.
Yeah, I didn't 100% know because I went to film school in Toronto. And like, I was here in Calgary and I was kind of like the odd man out of my friend group. Like, they were all like going out and partying and stuff like that. And I didn't care as much, and so I'd always just be at home, and I was like building a friendship online with people that I still talk to today, just in like different filmmaking groups and stuff like that. And so I kind of knew early that if I was going to do this seriously, like I needed to go somewhere where that could happen. Because I just, it's hard when you're kind of the one person in your group that wants to do one specific thing. And and try and shoot stuff with my friends and stuff, and they just didn't care as much. And so it was nice to go somewhere where there was other people that wanted to do it too. But yeah, I didn't know if I wanted to be a director, like a director of photography. I didn't, I didn't really fully understand. I like, using the camera to tell a story and stuff like that. And it kind of just turned into, um, in film school, I just learned like, no, I want to be the director. I want to be that guy. And that's where I started to just do, by the end of my time at film school, I was like barely in class. I was always shooting things out of my own. And the teachers would just mark me there because they knew what I was doing was, beneficial to myself overall. So it was just kind of like, it was just a great time. I just got to meet people and I got to access to gear that we never had, back home. Yeah, it just sort of set me off on this course.
And I notice, we're going to talk about Bodycam. I'm looking. You got some. You got some horror. You got some scary. Uh, what is it about horror movies, shorts, TV shows? What draws you to them as writer and director? And I mean, audiences, we love them. Why are you drawn to them?
I think probably the same reason everybody is now. It's just, I think that horror is such a broad genre now. Like you can just do anything in it.
Mhm.
And so I think as like a up and coming filmmaker, it's great because all that really matters is the idea, like that, like if you're doing a drama or something like that, you need great performances, you need all these things. But with a horror idea, you can start with something just as simple as like a little jump scare and building around it. And it's just this one, it's almost like telling a joke, right?
Mhm.
You're just setting up something and then you're doing a punchline, which is the jump or whatever the scare is. And it's just it's a very creative and director driven genre, I think, because again, like the idea is all that matters. And so I think that, we've seen the evolution of horror in the last 10 years with people like Jordan Peele coming out of comedy and doing this stuff because there's I think that you can do so much in the genre that you can't do in other things. And you can it's just like a total playground. And that's what I love about it. It's just, I grew up watching horror and the feeling that you get from a horror movie when it works on you is just like, you can't duplicate that with anything else, like that, the gripping your seat, the like sitting on the edge of your seat, the heart palpitations, all those things. Like, I don't think you necessarily get that with anything else. And so it's fun to kind of put other people into that position that I was once in, and I still am when I watch horror. I'm scared all the time, but it's fun to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, and horror elicits a response from an audience very different than a lot of other types of films, like you said, and people just get drawn into it. And then you chat with people, you say, "Oh, I'm gonna watch this movie," and it's one that you watch every single Halloween, whatever, whether it's the original Halloween or maybe it's the It's short, the mini series with Tim Curry. There's so many other ones that some people go, "Oh, I watched that once, too young. I watched The Exorcist and I'm never doing it again," and others just love it. But like people have those emotions and strong feelings. It's like, no, I saw that film once. It scared the shit out of me. I can never do it again. I can't do showers unless someone is home. Like I can't watch. Psycho screwed me up. It's all that stuff that really gets people.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think that's true. And it's kind of like when I was a kid, speaking of the miniseries, like I watched that when I was in kindergarten.
Oh no.
For some reason, I don't know. It's been a thing. But literally from kindergarten until about the eighth grade, I was just fully terrified of this thing. I'd have nightmares about Pennywise. I'd have all these things. And then when I was in the eighth grade, my friends and I watched it again, and I could see kind of how cheaply made it was.
Yeah.
And I saw it for what it was and not what I perceived it as a kid. And it kind of shattered the entire illusion, and all those nightmares just disappeared overnight. And you kind of miss that, and then so now you start chasing it and you're like, well, wait, I want that feeling again of just being, in a dark alley, like you're always looking over your shoulder. And so me and my friends start renting more and more horror movies, trying to just find that thing. And it's almost like a drug. You're just like chasing the dragon of being scared. And when you do, you find something and you love it, and then you kind of get over it quickly, and then you do it again and again. It's just like this ongoing thing. So yeah, I definitely think that people can remember that horror movie and where they were when they saw that thing that scared them so much. And it's almost like a rite of passage sometimes with some of these movies. Like, oh man, have you seen this? Oh, you got it. like Blair Witch Project that scarred me for a short period of time because I thought it was real at the time. You know, the marketing was so effective. Yeah, I think it's just such a unique genre that can be anything, and it just allows us to, just to experience these things in a way, and it's hard to do that with anything else.
Yeah, and I find that there's some horrors too. Jordan Peele again is fantastic in everything he's doing.
Mhm.
Um, and because he comes from this comedy background, he can have moments too. I feel like horrors allows you to have these moments of either a nice comedic moment that kind of comes out of nowhere and gets you all like, that was great, I did, and then something bad happens. Or you can even have these really heartfelt. Bodycam has a couple very emotional, tender moments between relationships of various people that
Mhm.
again we're dealing with something creepy. We don't know what's going on, and yet there's these real human emotions that happen. And I think horror can get away with having different moments like this.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just think it helps this, if you can be happy in one moment, it's going to make the scare more effective because the contrast is so big, And so I think that's part of the thing is like, okay, I want to make someone feel one thing, so there's like a total slingshot effect to the other side of the spectrum, and I don't think that you get that really anywhere else, and that's why Jordan Peele's so good at it because you'll be laughing in one scene and terrified the next, and it's just like that's so cool. It's such a fun, roller coaster you're being put on.
Yeah. And then of course I have to ask, like, are there some directors growing up that you just idolized or really appreciated their work and some you wanted to kind of inspire you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s and 90s when like Steven Spielberg was king, like the things that he did, Jurassic Park, all Saving Private Ryan, all these things. He was showing us stuff that we'd never seen before, and so I'm thankful that I grew up in that time because I think if you're growing up now, everything's been done. Now
Mhm.
it's the story is kind of key, so you're seeing a lot of these huge blockbuster films and it's just like, okay, it's a giant evil fighting a thing and it's like all CG and it's whatever, you kind of lose that grounded appeal. But I think it was Robert Rodriguez that was like the first director that I actually sort of paid attention to his work, and that was because he's got that very independent filmmaking side of him, and he would do the DVDs and he would release them with these 10-minute film school things, and he wrote that book Rebel Without a Crew, which is I have two copies of it. It's the best book ever. And it just sort of details very intimately how he went from this idea to selling his body for science to like raise enough money to shoot his first film, and then going to like Sundance and Tribeca and all this stuff and just becoming kind of like a household name in Hollywood. And it's so cool. And then, as I grew up, I really started to love David Fincher's work and just the way that he controls the camera and the scene and how everything is so perfect and precise and nothing is unintentional. And I love that. And when I'm trying to shoot a scene, like Bodycam's different because it's found footage, but in my other films, it's like I'm trying to copy his style as much as possible because make it feel like everything has a purpose. It's not just a shot because it's trying to tell you something. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Do you immediately have the whole film in your mind? Like when you're reading like the scripts that you write, um, there's scenes where it's just dialogue. Do you already know though, like what you want to see? Is it clear cut or is it once you get to set where you're like, okay, let me see what this like. Let's do this should be a two shot. This should be a one like
Mhm.
single shot. Like, do you have those ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely go in with a plan, and like if it's like a set piece or something like that where it's very technical, you need to go in knowing what's going to happen because the team is going to be working with you, and you have to be able to clearly kind of show them what you want to do so that they're ready for it. Because if you start throwing curveballs on things with like makeup effects or anything like that, you can screw yourself pretty quickly. But I mean, yeah, if it's just like a scene with people talking and maybe you haven't been in the location before or something like that, you're going to have to come up with some ideas on the spot. But I like what typically happens is I'll show up on set and I have a shot list and I'll rewrite my shot list down for the day in a way that I can just, I don't know, the sides, you get like a half size pages of what you're shooting that day. And I'll put them in there just for a quick reference. But then every time I'm just going to be like, as I'm doing it, I'll be like, okay, I don't need that shot. Ooh, this would be cool. And you're like, it's changing. So it kind of changes from day to day. Like sometimes you really just have to be on what you prepared for. And other times there's a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into body cam because um It's your new film. It's going to be premiering the Calgary premiere March 4th at the Globe Cinema, part of Off the Cuffs. Um,
Mhm.
I got to watch it. It's like I said, it's really good. You did a great job with it. I have a lot of questions. We're gonna make sure there's no spoilers. But I do want to ask you, you know, you mentioned Blair Witch Project. You mentioned this is like found footage. Found footage is not a new territory of films, but there's always that like sometimes you watch some of those films and you're like, why is this person still recording? Like, why is it? So,
Yeah.
Bodycam using police cameras is a perfect way to do this. What inspired you to do this film?
I mean, body cam stuff has become pretty big online. Like you go onto YouTube and there's so many of those Freedom of Information Act requests where you can get the body cam footage. And now that they're like mandatory in most places, that footage is just constantly being uploaded. And I think, that was definitely part of it, just sort of seeing that culture online where they're incredibly popular and they're incredibly scary, even if it's not something that's scary. There's just something so immediate and objective about watching body cam footage because there's no manipulation of it, right? But stupidly, the initial idea came from watching Jurassic World. There's a scene where they put all these cameras on these raptors, and
Yes.
they're all watching in this control room, and it's kind of cutting back and forth. And I was just like, oh man, that's an interesting. I wonder if you could do like a full feature like that. There's this inherent tension of not knowing what's around the corner and stuff like that. But I never really had the story. So I was like, maybe it's a short film. Maybe it's just like a quick, they're stopping a car and something happens. I don't know. But then, years later, I was working with Curtis David Harder on something, and he was producing VHS 94 at the time.
Oh yeah.
And it had this whole SWAT team thing. And we were talking about potentially doing a segment on that and what we would do. And we talked about, body cams and like an accidental shooting and what could happen from that. And so, that conversation went for a little bit, but then we both got busy with other things. And then all of a sudden the internet starts blowing up with videos of these like homeless population camps around these downtown cores where they're just, they're all on these drugs that have them kind of like standing around like zombies. And my brother and I were just like, what if something was controlling them? Like, what if they weren't on drugs or they were? And it's, we started talking about that, and it just started to evolve from Kurt and I's idea to this thing about this population. And yeah, I mean, it's you never know how it's going to go. It just sort of came out that way, and it became like a metaphorical thing about drugs and sort of how public perception can shape things. And despite having cameras every day, like you still have narratives that can come through and change how people view that footage. I mean, geez, we're seeing it every day right now, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very, we shot this 3 years ago, and it's more topical now than it was then.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I just watched The Perfect Neighbor on Netflix, which is nominated for an
Yeah,
Oscar for
great.
Best Documentary, and that is all like primarily used body cam footage
Yeah,
from the police officers' interactions with the neighbors and everything like that. So it is very topical.
yeah.
Was it? Did you have to go into a different frame of mind because again, when you can film whatever you want and you can do all these cool, fun angles, you're kind of limited because it has to be, either the cop car vehicle
Mhm.
camera or they're on their chest. Was that a fun challenge for you? Did you immediately go, why the fuck did I do this?
No, no, I thought it was awesome. Like it was really refreshing because, up to that point, I've had found footage elements in my films, but I've never done, gone all in. And I think that there's something to be said about just sticking with the gimmick. The gimmick is either a dash cam or their body cams. And, as we were in prep and stuff like that, it's like, well, security cameras, ring videos, whatever, we can use that. And I was just like, no, we just got to commit to the bit. You just stick with it. It's gonna allow you to do really interesting things. And that was like one of the challenge going into every scene because when you can't really shot list this stuff because there's two shots in most scenes. It's either Bryce's cameras or Jackson's camera. And some scenes it's only one. And so it's like it became more of a challenge of like, okay, well, if it's just two people talking, how do you make that interesting? Like, well, maybe he takes the camera off, he puts it here, he does this thing. And every scene you're trying to evolve how the camera is used and how it becomes part of the story. Like there's the scene after the shooting and Jackson's looking at his camera and he's like, we should destroy them and talking about it like that. But he puts his camera down. It just changes the perspective a little bit. So it kind of became, it was great for me as just a filmmaker because um, blocking, which is where you're telling the actors how to move through a scene, it became really important to keep the scene interesting. But because no one in the crew was in that room, like it was all lit by either practicals or flashlights, um, the actors could do anything. They had full 360 reign of the thing. And so I'm in another room or another building and I'm watching this wireless feed, and the actors were just free to do whatever they wanted, which is completely different than you would do in a normal film. It's like, oh, you have to look here so I can see your face, deliver the line and turn. Like there was none of that. It's just whatever they looked at was the thing. But then all of a sudden that adds new issues because it's like, oh, I need to get a close up of my sister's picture in a frame. You need the actor to like really lean into that because these GoPros shoot so wide that you don't get that detail. So like any close-ups or insert shots in a normal movie, all of a sudden you have to motivate that with the actor's movement, like bring the thing to he uses his phone a couple times. He has to hold it right against his chest and like, do it like that because it had to look good for the audience, even if it was a little bit awkward. But it was really funny because like, the way we did it was we had a camera vest and then we had a fake body cam for the other actor, and the camera vest actor would have to do the scene, fully act, but he was like a tank and he would have to like turn and like be very rigid and make sure that we were shooting the things. And then they would swap vests and he would have to go back into like acting normal while the other actor had to do the same scene, but very rigid and make sure that we were filming it right. So it was really funny just to watch the two different sides of the scene play out. Like it looks great on camera, but then if you were to look at them, they're just like moving very robotically and stuff. And it was really funny. But yeah, it was just fun to sort of figure out the scene and let it evolve naturally and see how we could play with it. It was just really fun.
Yeah. And talk to me about our two lead actors, our two cops, because they're so good together. They do such great performances. And as you're saying, like, also kind of being the cameraman, like,
Yeah.
how'd you find them? And like, yeah, great job with them. Like, they're so good in this.
Yeah, Sean Rogerson, I'd worked with him a couple times in a couple of my films, and so we become friends, and he's just a great dude. But I mean, he's most known for his role Lance Preston in Grave Encounters, and so it's like that's one of the bigger found footage films of the last 15 years. And having worked with him after that, we just became friends. And I was like, dude, we got to get you back into that world, and like we'll change your look, you'll grow a mustache, shave your head, I'll do all these things. But we want to bring that guy back because it's such a lovable character in those films. And so, he was doing this totally different thing, but I just wanted to work with Sean again. He's just such a great dude. And then Jamie, we just did, traditional casting, talking to different agents and figuring it out. But it was, we're casting a very, like a black family because we've got his mom and his sister. And so we had to keep everybody kind of in that same world and look. And it, in Canada that can be pretty challenging, but I found Jamie and it was just like he just looks like a superstar. Like he's just Michael B. Jordan of Canada. He just has that like super cool look, and I was just like, oh, this guy's awesome. It's like it's just he's just gonna balance off of this kind of buzz cut mustache thing. He's a much more suave kind of cop. And it was just wild. I mean, it was a very fast shoot. We shot it in 12 days. And just all overnights pretty much. Just,
I was going to ask you, are you a fan of night shoots? Because this is all nighttime.
No, I'm not at all. I mean, there was only 2 days of the shoot that weren't nights. One of them was when we were in the underground, and then the other one was when they go to Bryce's house. We started earlier in the room in the nursery with the girl with the mask, and we just blacked out the windows. So we're like, anything that we could do to try and shoot earlier would be nice. Cause it was, 10 of the days were full overnights, like 6 to 6. And no, it's never good. Everybody goes crazy and you're just like barely holding on. So yeah, anytime you can not do overnight.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a lot. And I mean, you're filming on location, you're on the streets of Calgary. Like there's a whole element that comes with that, right?
Yeah. I mean, even downtown, like there's that sequence at the end when he's driving around downtown, and we were able to lock down a street downtown. I can't remember which one, but we kind of had full rain and no one could drive down it. It was just shut down just for us. I mean, our crew was like 5 people.
Yeah.
It was so small. And so it was just like kids playing downtown with a cop car ripping around corners and stuff like that. And we're just like, it wasn't even that expensive. You think that shutting down an entire block of downtown would be costly, but it was like a few $100s or something like that. It was insane. And I don't know. It's just like just driving around in this fake cop car being idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was just a weird time. But yeah, Calgary, I don't know if you could do that everywhere.
No, not everywhere. So I mean, it looks great, and you Calgary audiences for sure are gonna be like, wait a minute, I recognize that place. Like
Right.
that was super fun. And that, but without spoiling, like that sequence at the end there is really well done, and I was like, it was tripping me up. There was a lot of moments in this that just
Mhm.
tripped me up. Again, you did such a good job of moments of, oh no, oh fuck this. So what are you doing? What are you doing, man? And
Yeah.
that's what you want with an audience, right? Like again, audiences have a reaction to horror movies that's so different than anything else because you have people specifically talking to the screens.
hmm For sure. Yeah, and it's like, how do you evolve the movie throughout? Because if you're just like, okay, we're going to this place, we're going to investigate, and we're going to go to this, we knew that if we were taking a supernatural approach to this film, we had to have the viewer experience some of that, and so we kind of tease it a little bit with how Bryce is reacting to certain things, like he's seeing things that aren't there, and then we kind of go to the other side of that later when we see it from Jackson's perspective. We're actually getting visualizations of what he's seeing and everything, and um it's kind of a cheat, but it's for the audience. Yeah, it's gonna, that sequence kind of starts fairly normal, but then eventually you're like, well, wait a minute, that can't be like how that can't be real, like, and it just keeps going worse and worse and worse for him. Yeah, that was incredibly complicated. We had this team in Vancouver that built like a 3D city for us, and we took. There's a place in Calgary called BMO Visuals, and they do those volume walls. So we took the cop car in there, projected the city on the thing, and then we shot it practically, which was really, incredibly helpful. The problem is we didn't do that at first. So we shot the scene without doing that. And then we realized very quickly in posters, like, this is never, ever going to work. And so we had to bring everybody back a year later once they'd built that city and reshoot that scene. But it made it a million times better. It was a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we mentioned your brother earlier. Do you guys always see eye to eye when it comes to writing the script? Like, there's there moments that you're fighting over something, or for the most part, you can be like, okay, I'm gonna do it your way. We'll see. And then you're like, oh crap, that was the right way to do it, or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, there's, anytime you're in a creative thing and you've got ideas that are competing, it can be hard, depending on how much you like an idea. If there is a better one, the ideal scenario is that, like, yeah, they'll compete and then the winner kind of comes out on top. And that's, that wasn't always how it was, but we've definitely gotten better at it. Like, it's still contentious sometimes and it sucks to get through that, but when the goal is the same, which is just like, what's the best version of this scene possible, when you land on it, you can kind of feel it, like it feels right. And I think, a good script feels natural. Like it wasn't hard to write. It just sort of came out. It never happens that way, maybe sometimes, but in general, it takes a lot of work to get something that's down and just kind of ugly and gross, and like shaping it into something that feels like it was always that way, like, oh yeah, obviously that's what that movie is, like if you read Jurassic Park, an earlier draft of it, you'd be like, oh my God, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. But then it gets to that point where it's like, oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. So as long as we're both, we both understand the process, and we have kind of, we've learned how to work together. And yeah, I mean, it's not an ego thing. It's just, you just sometimes don't want to kill your idea off because it's great. But the great thing is, it's like that idea can be used later too. So I've got like a notepad document filled with ideas that are unused from other things, and sometimes they find their way into other things.
Yeah.
So a good idea is a good idea. It might just not be the right idea for that one project.
I also love how many times you've mentioned Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, because I'm a huge fan. I've got like multiple tattoos. I don't know if I can show them there, but yeah, I've got like tons of tattoos. Because it was that film, the original film, was a game changer.
Yeah.
And just stories and what you can do with it, and I think it's so fantastic. And that's again, what I loved about Bodycam is just where you went with it, the fun surprises, and doing the found footage, but something slightly different, I think is great. How excited are you? This is coming out. It's going to be coming out on Shudder, and of course, like I mentioned, the Calgary premiere on March 4th at the Globe. How excited are you to watch, like, being with an audience? What's that like for you to watch your films with an audience? Do you love it, or do you like, I'm going to go to the bathroom for 2 hours?
It's a mix. I mean, sometimes it depends on how the audience is. Sometimes, like you can go in and an audience is just like enthusiastically there. Like with Cuff, I know it's a genre film festival. I've never played Cuff. I've played SIF, I think 3 times, and because my movies usually come out in the fall. Um, and this is the first time I'm going to be with Cuff, but I've heard the audience there. This is what they want to see. They're not there for, you go to SIF and there's like movies that played at Cannes,
Yeah.
and then my little crappy horror movie. There's like a totally different thing. So some people are coming that aren't necessarily there to see what I'm making. Cuff, however, that's what it's for. It's for the other side of the coin. And so I'm super excited to see it with them because I've been to those audiences for these genre festivals where they just love to be there and they want to see something that no one else has seen yet. And they want to get scared and they want to enjoy that thing. And I think sometimes when you go to like a regular audience, even if it's not your own film, but you just go to a movie theater or something like that. Like I remember I saw It Chapter 1 opening night, and there was these people just laughing through the whole thing. And like I understand it. You don't want to give yourself to the film. You don't want to allow yourself to be scared because it's almost like a sign of weakness. Mm-hmm. So if you can make fun of the film as it's going, it's gonna put you at like you're not gonna be as scared. You're not gonna be as willing to open yourself to it, even if everybody else is, and it just ruins the whole thing. But at a genre festival, I think that they're all there for that. They don't want to ruin it. They want to just see it. So yeah, I think it's great. And when an audience reacts to it and they jump or they get excited or they laugh at a joke, it's like the greatest thing in the world. Like when I've done, this is my 6th Shudder movie, and I love Shudder. I love what they've done for the community and everything. But it's not like having a wide theatrical release where you can just go see it. So, you just rely on screenings like these to get that kind of feedback loop because, we don't do test screenings or anything. We don't have any money for that. The movie is just made in private and then it goes out to the world and you're just like, I hope I made the right decisions. And sometimes you did and sometimes you didn't. Yeah. But, at least the community is very welcoming. So that's nice.
Yeah. Well, people listening to this and they're like, oh, maybe I want to check it out. What do you want them to know about this film? What do you want to say to them who's listening to it and like, I think I want to see this movie?
I just think it's a very short ride. It's like 74 minutes or something. And it's just something that you've probably never seen before. It's a great gimmick. It's one of those things that when I told people about it, I mean, we shot the film in secret. We used a fake name. We did all this stuff. We told as few people as possible because we're like, someone's going to do this first, that the perfect neighbor just happened. But even that, like the second half of it turns into something else. But yeah, it was just like, it's a very novel idea and approach to found footage horror. And, it's just, without giving much away, it's like a roller coaster through hell for these 2 cops. And it, I'm not trying to make any political messaging or anything like that, I think it does has something to say just about how we perceive events online and how, and that because really they commit a terrible act in the opening scene, but it's not even that act that causes them to do the things. It's what they're afraid would happen if this footage gets seen. And I think that's just a really unique thing. And, I don't know if anyone's going to take anything from it from that perspective, but, I think it's an interesting film that is, right now, especially, I'm actually a little bit worried about how people are going to react during this current, it's a very hot topic right now. But yeah, I mean, it's a new perspective on horror, and I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool, and I think people are going to be very excited about it. What can we look forward to the rest of 2026, or anything you're working on that you're allowed to share with us?
Yeah, I've got a few scripts out there right now that we've written and we're trying to see if we can get financing and stuff for it. It's just always that battle. We're writing another thing right now that we were working on earlier today and trying to, we're going to start pitching that around soon as well. But I don't know what it'll be, but I'm sure something's going to shoot this year. And hopefully it's in Calgary again, because I've shot 4 of my 6 films here and I do love shooting here. It's a great cinematic resource that, everywhere you look, it's completely different here.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I think that's why all these giant shows are shooting here too. It's like a slowly discovered jewel that people are finding. And, yeah, no, Calgary's awesome. And I've been back for almost 4 years now and it's been great.
That was going to be my next question, is what you love about this. But like, why do you think, it's not just like the environment, but the crews? Like, why do you think you hear Pedro Pascal, you hear these directors and actors, big stars talking about how great the crew like is in Alberta. Like, why do you think they're just so good?
I think a part of it is that, like, when you go to somewhere like Vancouver or Toronto, you're there to make money. Like, you're there because that's where the action is. And I don't think you get as excited about shooting as you do here. I still think that Calgary as like a cinematic hotspot is still pretty young. And so I think the crews here and stuff like that, they still get excited by doing stuff and doing bigger and bigger things. I've got friends that have worked on Last of Us, Fraggle Rock, all this stuff. And the novelty of having these giant projects from your childhood or whatever coming to Calgary is still really exciting for people. And I hope that we stay that way. Like, we're a smaller town than those other places. When a show comes through here, it's special still. And I don't think it necessarily is in those places. So, I hope that we maintain that and like the community here and just like finding locations and stuff. If you go to Vancouver, it's like, hey, we need a house. People there know how much budgets are.
Yeah.
Even when so like the indie scene can't really exist because you're competing with the CW or all these other streamers. And whereas here, it's just like, it's like a very large, small town. And so people are very supportive and you get the help from, places that you wouldn't expect it. And I don't necessarily, it's like that. I think it's like that everywhere else. But yeah, I mean, I've met some amazing people here that I continue to work with today. And it's just, I don't know. It's been awesome to live here and work here. And, yeah, I just think that we haven't become jaded yet.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
As we start to wrap up, I do want to ask you, what do you like? You do scary movies. You watch scary movies. What are usually more terrifying to you? Supernatural ones or those like it's a human who's doing this killing that could be your closest friend or family member?
I think it just depends because, like, the scariest experiences I've ever had are like Paranormal Activity. I saw that alone, terrified me because it made me look at my house differently when I got home. I was like, what was that sound? Was that a ghost or was it just the house settling? I don't know. Blair Witch was similar, and a big part of that was because of the marketing and how they made everybody in the world think it was real.
Yeah.
And so I saw an early screening of it, and I had no idea that any of it was fake. So I watched it under this false illusion, and that terrified me. But I think I lean more supernatural with this stuff because it's even though I don't know, it's kind of bizarre. I think it just depends on the movie, Like, there's definitely movies that I've seen that are human based, and it's just as terrifying to be like, oh my God, people could do this to each other, that kind of thing. But I don't know, it's just anything that kind of goes into a domestic situation like my own with, like, I've got kids, I've got a wife, anything that can take that kind of normalcy and turn it upside down and like make you fear your safe space. Those ones get me the most. So if it's like an intruder film or something like that, yeah, I think those are the scary ones because it's like, yeah, shit, what would I do if someone's going to break into my house? That's the human element, or if there's a ghost or a spirit, a demon or something like that messing with me. I think it's just anything that compromises your safe space, which is like your home, those are the ones that get me.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite films of all time, one of my definitely favorite scary movies is the original Poltergeist. And that's what you're talking about. It's just this nice, loving family in this beautiful new home, middle suburbs. Everything's great and green and grassy and fantastic. And then shit hits the fan, and that's terrifying.
Right. Yeah. It's like a total victim of circumstance. Like, they didn't do anything wrong. It's like, what was it? Is it The Crazies? No, not The Crazies. What is it? The tagline for the one movie, it's like, or the line in it, it's like, why us? And it's like, because you were home.
Oh,
or is that what movie is that?
That's the Strangers.
Yeah. The Strangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a terrifying thing. And I think that's why, like, Michael Myers was so scary, because until they personified him later.
Yeah.
But like, at first it's just like, he's like the boogeyman. It's just, he just is there and you're in his way and good luck.
Yeah.
And there's something very scary about being in that scenario. So, yeah, I'm just definitely a fan of just like suburban horror, I think.
Yeah. Well, you got a great one on your hands here. Another hit. It's so good. I'm so excited for our audiences to see it. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. It was such a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, for sure, man. This was fun.
Thank you, Brandon Christensen, for coming on the podcast and chatting with me today. Bodycam is part of Off the Cuff. It's having its Calgary premiere March 4th at the Globe Cinema. Check it out. Tickets available now if they haven't sold out yet. So hurry, you don't want to miss this. Audience or guests will be in attendance, so you can have a Q&A after the show, which is always fun. And then, of course, look for it on Shudder starting March 13th, Friday the 13th. Such a fun film. If you like horror, you're set. And like you mentioned, it's only like 75 minutes long, so you can just jump right in. It's fantastic. It's good. You get to see Calgary. It's a blast. Make sure to follow me on social media at PGW Craig, Passing Time with Craig, for all the fun ways to pass the time. Otherwise, we'll chat soon. Bye.